Okay, hi everybody. Thanks for joining us for our first Indigitous session. We're here with Lieze Langford, living in Scotland. See that 26 are already here. We appreciate you coming and really taking the time with us. We're really blessed that we can serve you today. So it's a good morning, good afternoon, or good evening to you. Indigitous is a movement that is passionate about connecting people to Jesus and doing that using digital strategies. So tonight we're going to spend a lot of time talking about the strategy within digital, but we don't want to skip the person of Jesus and why we do what we do. And so, Lieze, just thanks for joining us. And as people kind of get logged in and get used to the technology here, I'm really curious to have you share with us just a few minutes how it is that you became a follower of Jesus.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, Matt. I'm very honored to do this webinar with you guys today and be part of the Indigenous movement. A little bit about myself and how on earth I got here. I've been very lucky growing up in a Christian home with very caring parents, and I was exposed to the gospel early on in my life. Did unfortunately backslide, I'm sure like most people have experienced in their walk with God, and through meeting my husband, became recommitted to what God wanted to do in my life and following His purpose for my life. I was very lucky and blessed to work in the advertising industry in South Africa, working for probably the best ad agencies out there. I worked for the national broadcaster as a brand manager. I worked in digital publishing on some magazines, and worked for creative agencies. And with our move to Scotland, the question in my heart was always still there: how can I use this talent and this knowledge that I've built up over the years to really kind of sow back into the kingdom of God, and how can I use it to spread the gospel? And it's with the family move to Scotland that I realized that God really was working in my life to make this dream come true, His dream come true really in my life. I connected with an old and dear friend of ours that currently works at Crew, and I was asked to share my knowledge and some of the experiences I had at the first Indigenous conference in Amsterdam. And it's just at that point when I realized that actually what my purpose was, is that God had exposed me to the best brands, to the best practices in terms of digital marketing and strategy throughout my career from a sectoral base, so that He could use me to share that knowledge with the people who works in His kingdom, and for people who doesn't work in the kingdom, but basically using that to spread His gospel and hopefully get more people for God. So that I'm very excited being part of Indigenous, because I really believe that is my purpose, why I'm here, and I hope that you can also learn a lot from me today, and if there's questions, we'll take it on later.
Yeah, so thank you, Lieze, for the time. Just thankful to God for His love for you and His work in your heart, and then we get to be really blessed by that. For those of you attending, a little bit about how it's going to work tonight. We're going to be together for 1 hour. As you can see in your control panel, there's an opportunity for you to ask questions or chat with us. And so that's how we're going to aggregate the questions throughout the time. Lieze's presentation will be about 40 minutes, and then we'll have the rest of the time for her to answer your questions and the time remaining. And then afterwards, we got a little challenge and invitation for you that we hope you'll be excited to take. So Lieze, you come from South Africa. Like you mentioned, you've had exposure to some of the top brands, top magazines in the world. As you can see, folks on the screen, she's worked with the Preckelt Foundation, one of the real leading health innovators in the continent of Africa and around the world. Currently, she's working with Facebook and their internet.org initiative to expand internet access to countries in the world, and most recently finished up a project with Tanzania. And she listed out a whole bunch of others that they've got on the board for the rest of the year. So very, very exciting stuff. We're very thankful for you. And tonight's topic is in large part debunking digital strategy. Digital strategy seems like a very complex task, there's lots of different angles to attack it. And so how we're looking at it in this first session is through the lens of persona creation. And I know for me, as I'm working on 2 products right now, 2 digital products, it has been transformative as we've shifted our view from what we want to do or how we want to make it to what is our user and audience thinking and wanting, and how do we build functionality to serve them. And as we've used personas and different things, it's completely unlocked and really actually helped us make hard decisions in terms of do this and not do that. So we hope for you as you listen tonight, as you think about your ministry context, really get you thinking in terms of not what you can do and how you can get people to come to you, but what are the people you care about, burden for, love, and want to serve? Who are they? How do they think? Where do they live? And then that helps you make decisions in terms of your strategy. So, Lieze, thanks for being here, and take it away.
Brilliant. I'm going to jump right into it. Sorry, I'll just quickly get all my connection. I'm going to jump right into it. We talk about digital strategy, Matthew. For those of you who have been exposed to any of the work Indigitous have been doing, is the main talk that I had in Amsterdam was debunking digital strategy, and I think what that basically comes to is making it actionable, making it really easy to understand, and giving you guys the tools to actually go out and do it yourself. Sometimes a lot of the marketing talk, or even these days technology and digital talk, is very highfalutin and sometimes does leave one a bit in the dark. So my aim is today to really give you some practical tips and leave you with an action plan so you can go ahead. So just to recap what strategy in a nutshell is about, it's about what we want to do, who do we want to talk to, where are we going to find those people, and how are we going to talk to them. And as part of that, I just want to recap what the what part is, which is the objectives part. Sometimes an element that we don't give enough attention to, or we just kind of randomly write it down and hope that we'll get it. But objectives are quite important to ensure that the task at hand is clearly set aside, and then we can actually measure to see if we've done what we set out to do. So a little nice acronym to remember is SMART. I'm sure a lot of you have seen the SMART objectives. What are SMART objectives? They are specific, they're measurable, they're achievable or attainable, they're realistic, and they're targeted and time-bound. And those are quite important because I've often, and in many cases, both in the ministry world and also in the business world, seen people unfortunately not do proper objectives, and that kind of leads them completely the wrong path, and it's really hard to then measure if it's been achieved or not. So some examples of real SMART objectives are, and these are just a few examples. So one would say increase the UK market share by 5% by the close of 2015, or add 1,000 Twitter followers to a brand account in 2016. So you can see they are specific, they're measurable, they are timeous, and they definitely, you can measure that at the end of the campaign. So I'm jumping then into the next part of digital strategy. The main part that we'll be discussing today is who, so our audience. And there are various ways of defining your audience, your target users. Most of us use a general demographic description of target audiences, also adding in some psychographic if possible. But I'd like to focus on personas, which is just a tool of really getting to understand your user. So what exactly are personas? Personas are a fictional representation of your ideal customer or user, and they help you to understand them better, and it makes it easier to tailor content, platforms, apps, anything that you deliver to them, make it a lot easier. So the types of personas that you have, you've got ad hoc personas. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on that. You've got web design personas, and you've got marketing personas. Now, for the purpose of this talk, I'm going to be focusing mostly on marketing personas, but you'll see how it actually goes through into web design personas. Because once you understand the user and their needs, you also understand how that applies to your digital platforms, be it your user experience on your site, or your app, or your mobile platform. So what I've put together, and this, by the way, will be available online, and I've got a few links in here as well, so this will be shared, is a persona toolkit. I've also listed my sources, so there's a lot of reading for those who want to do a bit of reading afterwards. But this persona toolkit basically will become a starting point for you to put together a persona. And you're starting off by describing the user. Things we mentioned about demographics, looking at the gender, the age range, your household income, urban, suburban, and the highest level of education. So those are the normal generic demographics that most of you, I'm sure, must have been exposed to in some sort of way through marketing. Another element you can add in there to build a richer persona is identifiers, so buzzwords and mannerisms. I will also show you how to find this information if you don't have deep pockets with heavy research behind you. There are some great online tools which I'll discuss later on to take you through. So then once you've had the demographic information about the persona, you look at the user's motivation. So what is this person motivated by? What do they value the most? What are their goals? Then you look at the challenges. What are they looking for in life? What are their needs? What are their pain points? And how can you help them solve? So this you can apply in any way possible. We're talking specifically now here in ministry, but you can apply these in your generic marketing plans and in the business world as well. And then we look at their motivation in terms of how we can help them. So how can we help them solve their challenges? And how can we help them to achieve their goals? One of the tools to gather this information is to have small focus groups where you can have interviews with your target users, asking them these questions. But again, as mentioned, I will share some other tools later on to show you how to actually get some more information. Also, Matthew, I'm sure you can just manage it, but if I'm going too fast, please can you ping, Skype, smoke signal me so I can go a bit slower. Then we also look at the user behavior. What does that a day in their life look like? Where do they go for information? And it's quite important because we often just look at a very clinical, generic demographic, female, 25 to 30, who works in magazines, but we forget how that person's day actually looks and at what moments we can actually intercede into their day and have a proper conversation or with them, or a piece of message or a mobile banner that reaches them when they are open most for it. I think a quite important one that relates to digital strategy specifically is looking at their digital behavior. So here is how do they relate to the technology? Why do they come to your site? Why will they come to your site for that matter? What devices do they use on a regular basis? Are they iOS, Android, or just feature phone? What software or applications do they use? And how much time do they spend the web, browsing the web every day? Now, these are just some questions. The list can go on for very long, and you can add in specific questions that is more relating to your platform or your strategy at hand. I do find that including a real photo helps from Creative Commons or stock photo. It gives you an indication and just a real feel for a person. So that's just a clever little tip that I often use. Then real quotes are really also important, is to make it understand for the rest of your team who this persona is, so they can relate to it. This is not just, although it's fictional, it is a representation of your target user. So there needs to be some relation to that. And then, which I think is important, sometimes not always included, is identify the most common objections your persona will have when you have a conversation with them, be it a ministry conversation or marketing conversation. People are obviously sometimes reserved and have objections, and I think it's important to pinpoint those down as much as possible. Then, as part of the toolkit, you can include your marketing message. So how would you describe your solution to your persona? And then my favorite is the elevator pitch, making your description of your solution simple and consistent across your company or your ministry. I think that is fundamental. If you can't, in a few seconds, describe what you are all about or what your message is all about, how on earth are you trying to get your users to understand what you do? And this is something that comes up time and time again in various scenarios and businesses and ministries. It's very long-winded, it's hard to explain to people, and I think that's something that if you can crack that, it would be really great, because that will enable your team also to go out and spread the message. So more advanced toolkits, the toolkit I've given you is quite simplistic. There are a lot of different ways that you can do personas. I'm going to share some with you, not in too much detail, but I just want you to show that it's not the be-all and end-all. The more advanced ones are things like touchpoint mapping, characteristic mapping, and mapping consumer needs to content. So the first one is touchpoint mapping, and here we look at the touchpoints for a vacation home buyer. It is split between managed touchpoints and unmanaged touchpoints, managed being media, call center, local offices, obviously things that we've got management over, and unmanaged is friends, family, word of mouth. And you can just see the journey that this person goes through in terms of looking for a vacation home. So example, he searches for a vacation home on Google, and he closes a property, prepares on the cleanup. So based on the site recommendations of friends and of emails that he's received as well. So just looking at a user's journey through the various touch points. And again, this helps when you want to pinpoint an area where you could find a user and talk to them and share information with them in a threatening, non-threatening environment. Then, in terms of characteristics mapping, certain personas were created based on characteristics and mapped over their savviness with technology. So you've got your tech cautious versus tech savvy, your introvert versus your sociable. In this instance, you'll see that you're a really good person to target is your chatty spenders or your socialites, because they are obviously already tech savvy, and they're sociable, so they are willing to engage with you. I think these are just some examples of how you can drive it even further in your persona mapping, and I have also a list available afterwards of further ways of mapping it. This allows you to even go into a level of using personas for your digital properties. So looking at your websites and how your different personas use your websites different ways. I've got a nice case study which I will take you through now to show you exactly that. These are some personas for the University of Surrey. These are all fictional. And basically, you'll see it's brought into new arrivals, eager to start, settled in and established. The new to start is obviously somebody who's brand new to the university, that's never been there, somebody who's now a fresh first year on campus, the settled in a second year on campus, and the established is somebody who's already done their degree but is now embarking on their PhD. Again, you'll see here, these are just standard stock pictures, nothing specific about them. For the purpose of this case study, we'll be looking at Adel Osman. So he's the new arrival. He's 19 years old. He's due to travel from native Malaysia to begin his undergraduate work. He has very little about the way things work. He'll be living on campus, but is arriving a couple of weeks early and has nowhere to stay before term starts. He's a sociable person, likes to get involved, but is a practicing Muslim and is worried about the on-campus entertainment that won't be to his taste. He won't let that stop him. He's on a strict budget and he needs to find his ways around. So already in that short summary, although it seems quite trivial, we've touched quite a few things about personas. We've touched the things that concerns him. We've discussed the challenges that's up for him. We've discussed his background, where he's from. There's some demographic information in there. So that gives you a real good understanding of, just in a few paragraphs, what Adel is all about. So from there, we look at the first persona based on Adel. So we just write a little bit of a summary about what the challenge is and just flesh it out a bit. We do a requirement. So Adel needs practical information so that he feels prepared, not just about the course, but about accommodation, the environment, what to expect and what he'll need, just everything basically. There's a quote from him that we've included. I've never been to the UK. I'm arriving in a few weeks. I don't know where I stay or anyone can help me. I'm going to make my time in the UK count, but grades come first. And then on the right-hand side, we've put together the critical success factors. So for him, we need to give him plenty of support before he arrives at Guildford. Ensure that he's provided with detailed information about life at the university. We need to provide or signpost a route for him to contact other students. We need to point him in the right direction for information about clubs and societies. We need to give him help in looking for a job. So those, again, are things that we can then measure against the persona as part of our objectives and say that we have achieved those things. So again, just delving deeper into this persona, key questions that this user could ask is how will I manage when I know nothing? I quite like that one because it's quite a short sentence but very poignant in terms of the challenge at hand. The goal, and for him, and it's important to understand the goals for this persona, is to make and save money, learn about the local area, accommodation. We recap the needs, to know where to ask questions, to know what to expect when he arrives. His anxieties, again, constraints. So what we do in terms of the ideal approach for this user is to be there to answer any of his questions and actively approach him to make sure that he's all right. Content. So you can see how basically in that part of the persona, it's all been about the persona and the challenges and the goals and the needs. But what that allows us to do is to start thinking about the content and where we will speak to this persona and how we will speak to this persona. So content, for instance, as an example, is content for any new arrival needs to be quick and easy, accessible. It's got to be written in a way to buy and use things. It's got to be up to date. It's got to be information about travel and trips in the UK and the area. It's got to be information about campus and how things work. So already understanding the persona in this instance answers a lot of questions for us on how we prepare content for this persona. So looking at a hypothetical scenario for this persona, if he believes that he gets most out of his time of university, he needs to find a job, but he has no idea how to find one. He's hoping that the university will be able to help him for that. So if he's looking for a job and hoping that university will help him, he will spend a lot of time on the website where he finds searching for University of Surrey. From there, he'll navigate down to the student union site for information about. On the student union homepage, he'll select classifieds and jobs. And within that section, he will see a section called jobs and clicks on it. On jobs, basically, you can search for jobs on campus. So you can see how going from a really wide description of demographics, but creating a very tight and well defined persona, we are able to see the needs that this persona has. We can then deliver content, right suited content towards this persona. And furthermore, we can see the path, the journey that he will do, in this particular case, on the website. So we can aim and customize our website to answer his needs, specifically when it comes to, in this case, job hunting. So again, how in this case they would optimize the site is they've got to ensure that they have a good search campaign for University of Surrey, especially with information about. They've got to make sure that the jobs and classifieds section is highlighted on the home page and maybe above the fold already. They've got to ensure that it's easy to search through the job section to find a job. And then that can also, so that one way of doing that is obviously online, but it's important to ensure that the staff and user-generated updates are also updated on the site. Relevant search in functionality is optimized, and then links to other job sites can also happen on this site. So it gives you a clear indication how, again, quite a wide demographic is fine-tuned into a tailor persona, which will then help you to optimize your digital platforms. So common mistakes that I've seen through personas. There's no hard and fast rules of exact ways of doing personas. I've given you a few examples and some practical solutions. But I think often, and Matthew mentioned it earlier, often we think of it from our own point of view. So we think, how can people come to us? How can we tell them about us or our product or our ministry? And I think what personas allows you to do is become more user-centric than personal or product-centric or message-centric, understanding their needs, their wants, and how to intercede into that environment. I do also want to recommend that you avoid a real person. Often we try to, or we reflect, we think that we reflect our own customers, and that's not the case. So try and keep it functional. It also makes it a lot easier for teams to work with a fictional person, and not to have one person that is a real person in mind. One of the other mistakes I see is personas with no stories. Already, we just from the few slides I've showed you on her deal, we feel that we kind of know him, we understand his needs, his wants, his desires, and his insecurities. And I think that's the story that a persona needs to tell, and that's how it differentiates from just a normal target audience description, is that a persona has a story to tell, so that we can relate easier to them. Another mistake is insufficient research. It is a tricky one, especially if you don't have lots of dollars or pounds behind you to do the research. But like I mentioned, is I've got a whole list, and I will show you some of the tools now, just touch on that, a whole list of tools online tools available. Most are free, some might require some subscription, where you can get a good understanding of people and currently using your site or your app. So that will give you a clear understanding to start with personas. And then lastly is developing too many or too little personas. I think any business or any ministry at this stage will have at least more than one persona, But I think the moment you start going over 5 or 6 personas, you need to start drumming it down a little bit, because there's some generic themes that one can apply to various personas. So in terms of the insight mining, that's basically how do we get all this information? We don't just thumb suck it, we actually use some tools. I've put together a toolkit for you. Just want to have a sip of water. Put together a toolkit for you on this, which I'll share with you. So there are various tools that one can use to get data together. There are quantitative tools, qualitative tools, research reports, and just a general environmental analysis, which I'll show you a few samples of now. So quantitative tools is where you get the real juice, the quantity, the big numbers. Some tools, and I'm a big fan of Google. They obviously know a lot about us already, and they have all the data. One fantastic website to work with is thinkwithgoogle.com. It allows you to look at user behavior across various sites and across the world. Another one is Consumer Barometer, a really good understanding of consumers. There is also Compete and Alexa, which shows you how you're competing with other sites or tools. And then Facebook Analytics. I suggest that anyone who spends time on Facebook or works on Facebook really digs deep on Facebook Analytics, especially on the insight side. There's some fantastic products they have available. And even if you have never bought ads on Facebook, play around with their ads manager. It gives some really great research available in terms of segmenting users and target groups. Then qualitative tools, looking at Twitter and especially the advanced search option. Again, these are things that really exist, but not a lot of us know about it. You can look for what people are searching for by words and people. You can do an open status search where you can search what people are looking for on Facebook. There are some paid for tools like a Radiant 6 social mention to see what people are talking about. Facebook, again, comes as just looking at your page. And I think, often we have pages running on Facebook, but do we actually read the comments and the insights of our users on there? That's a fantastic place to get your real life quote, by the way. People talk on Facebook the whole time. Then in terms of research reports, these are some of my favorite sites and reports, pewinternet.org, eMarketer, Statista, and again, Think with Google. They are really good in terms of giving you reports, and they do global, regional reports. I'm a big fan of using the web for my research. I call it my Alice in Wonderland sessions, because once I start, I just find one upon the other great pieces and nuggets of information. So start with these sites, and who knows what you might find. Looking at your competitors or what other brands or other ministries are doing is always great, because it can give you an indication, or brands that you have a affiliation with. Mixed Ranked looks at what advertisers are using, what keywords they are using. Social Bakers, again, a great tool for social media monitoring. Banner Blog gives you what people are actually using and best practices in terms of online paid for media. And Digital Buzz Blog, again, great articles about how to do digital media. Then some more. These will be available. They're all hyperlinked. Google's got a great tool now as part of Think of Google, which is the customer journey online, where you can actually map your customer journey online. A great start for looking deeper into personas. You can look at Google Trends, what is trending worldwide, what is trending in your region, what is trending against a different age group. Google AdWords, again, a fantastic tool. You don't have to spend money to have access to the functionality. You can play around with the tool and will give you a gazillion options of words, keywords that would work for your target user. It gives you the number of people you can actually reach. Topsy, Talkwalker, Worst Tracker, all of those are Worst Tracker specifically as one to see how your videos are doing and performing, which videos are performing really well on YouTube and Vimeo. SimilarWeb and QuickSpot again are site comparison sites where you can see how your site is comparing on SEO for free. And SimilarWeb also gives you as a site where you can compare your different websites and the insights that each website gives you to your own. So again, lots of sites that you can work with and play around and kind of mine data from that's not necessarily, you know, going to cost you an arm and a leg. And then use your existing social media channels. I mentioned earlier Facebook, but really sit down and have a debunk of your Twitter account, of your Facebook and account. See what people are talking about. See the things that are making them passionate. See which conversations are pressing the right buttons. And that will be a good start to start drawing up a persona. And that, I think, is within my time limit. Just to kind of give credit to a lot of my information I get from Smart Insight, HubSpot, and Julian Cole. If there's any questions, I'm sure we'll have a question session. And then, yeah, I hope this has been information, not too much information overload, but enough to get you started on your personas.
Yeah, thank you, Lieze. That's been excellent. I really appreciate the work you put in. That was fast. That was furious. Lots to continue to dig into. I think for people who really like to do research, this is probably going to be a really exciting project, right? I mean, tons of links, tons of data, unending. For the person that hears this and thinks, you know what, never mind. Maybe it's not worth it. What's the bare minimum you would recommend to just get started on their first persona?
I think the bare minimum would be to, and I'm going to quickly flick back to that, so
Sure.
I can just answer you on the. I would say to start with the persona toolkit, to at the very least have the demographics part of it in it, the goals, the challenges, and how can we help. The behavior is important and it really gives you a really full-fledged persona, but if I would definitely just focus on those two slides at the very, very basic. Because if you can't even answer those questions in terms of who are we talking to, then how on earth are you going to have the right message for them? And I do believe in today's society where we've gone from so many different economies before, we definitely people mention the attention economy now. You know, if you don't get people's attention, you know, don't even bother. And I think those are the basic things to get somebody's attention. Understand who they are. And again, if you don't feel or have the capacity to do all the research, look at the people who are really your deemed users, be it on Facebook or your website. Look at those people, and that should give you your answer.
So let's just go ahead and, if you could make it explicit for us, let's use a campus minister. This is a question from Patrick.
Sure.
How do you see personas really being helpful for that person? Somebody who's ministering to a university student context or a college pastor, something like that. Like, how would this be useful for them?
Sure. I'm actually going to take it a little bit further and make it a bit broader. as Indigenous and as some people deal with more than one group of people. There are the campus students, there are business teams, there are church teams, and there are internal teams. Already there are 4 personas for me, broadly speaking, for the bigger organization. So if you want to talk about campus, I would definitely look at the campus going persona. So you're going to have someone who is open to being spoken about God, that has, you know, maybe new in the area. Let's use the same analogy as we had with my previous example. Somebody who's new to the area, somebody who's open to new things, somebody who's not rooted in a belief or not rooted in a community. Already there for me is an opportunity to by understanding them, one could minister to them. So that doesn't have to be male or female. It doesn't have to be a you know, certain age group, but it's a looking or searching for mentality, and we can pick that specifically up in personas because they are either new to the area and they not and not knowledgeable what's going on campus, and because of that, and we understand that well about them, we could intercede at that level and provide information, general university information, but also use it as a stepping stone to introduce them to God. Does that answer the question?
Yeah.
We a different personas. Sorry, Matthew. I think
Yeah.
a second persona could be the person who's not interested at all, that's blatantly against, you know, us speaking to them about anything about God. We know them, we know where they hang out, we know their attitude, we know the answers they'll give us back because of we've been speaking to them. The kind of message you create for that person and the type of content you create for that person is very different from the seeking persona.
You know, I was thinking of the one that you picked, Adil,
Yes.
for somebody who really wants to minister to that type of student. Knowing his clear needs and desires helps you offer relevant services that give you that trust and builds that rapport so that you have relationship with Adil. So yeah, that's really well said. We have a question from Leela here. Lieze, could you talk a little bit in terms of how personas help you create ads? So you mentioned Facebook ads, Google AdWords, things like that. So in terms of how you write the copy, how you choose images, just kind of from your days in magazine, how do you look at that?
Definitely. So once you've got a persona, you will see that the kind of copy, the contents. Well, let's go to Adil. I do like my friend Adil.
You learn to get to know them, right? You start liking these people.
You do. You know, you feel like it's a person. So again, we've walked through the stuff that Adil's gone through. So a small thing, and I'm not a copywriter. I don't want to insult any copywriters or great, but a simple way of tailoring content is because he's looking for jobs. A banner ad or a poster on campus would say, you know, new to Surrey, looking for a job, click here, kind of thing. Where if you didn't know that he was a searching and a new person, you would never know that he is looking and that he's looking for a job. Actually, I don't know if that expands as well. Basically, it's possibly better for me to explain it using his digital journey. So we know that if most people, what do they do when they look for something? They're new in an area. You go to Google. In this instance, it would be good then to have your Google Ads campaign optimized for words like University of Surrey, jobs in the area of University of Surrey, things to do for first-year students. So you based your actual campaign and content around the words, the keywords that he will be searching for. you optimize your website. Instead of having a beautiful picture of the Surrey University, you dedicate a big part of your homepage to a job section, or a button that links, or banner that clearly clicks to the job section. So with this person in mind, you already know which next steps to take. Because often we go and we go, well, we know that a website's going to have X, Y, Z, but we don't very seldom know why. The why is because there are real people using your website in a particular way already, and we need to enable them to make that user journey and user experience a lot easier, because the moment they stumble upon a problem on your website or your app or your Mobi site, they leave, and that's them lost. It's an opportunity loss. So the best way to describe it is to actually use a persona to determine your keywords for your keyword search, for your copy on your banner ads, like you mentioned, and also the kind of banners that they like. Some great sites, and I'll also post it on the chat later, is some great examples of banners, rich media banners that are being used. Sites like DoubleClick, who's actually an ad-serving company, but they have got this great platform where they showcase the best of online advertising, and you just kind of go through it and learn from the best.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you, Lieze. You know, one thing, just a caution for us in ministry, is sometimes we learn about these real needs like a deal and his job search desire, and so we'll contextualize something to find jobs but never actually deliver the real service. We're just doing it in a way to get attention with them, right? And so I think for me, working through personas for our different products and different things has helped me become more empathetic and sympathetic towards how other people are experiencing what I'm delivering and connecting that to what they want. And so it really is, in some ways, it can even craft the strategy or craft the service, and you might discover something completely new that you could offer that you hadn't really considered before. That's valuable, it's viable.
Absolutely. And I mean, I'll use myself as an example. I mean, moving to UK about 18 months ago, the first thing we wanted to do is find a church. The first thing I did was go to Google, and it was quite a hard search because I don't think anyone has actually written me as a persona, so or something for me as a persona. And also all the websites are fantastic, and even the church we attend are fantastic sites, but not optimized at all for anyone looking for a new church, for instance. Now, we all know that campuses are kind of the crossroads of the world, people coming in and out of campuses every day. For me, out of any campus ministry, if you've got some digital platform, you should be on search. You should optimize your search marketing. And your platform should be optimized for that. Because if you can't find where your closest small group is, then, why bother?
Your story reminds me of a friend. He was moving down to the city where I live now, and I think he tweeted out, "Hey, I'm really excited to be moving to Orlando." And he got a tweet back just really quickly after from a broadband internet company saying, "Hey, we're so excited you're moving to Orlando. It's great down here. And by the way, if you need any internet services, we'd love to help you." And it was like, wow. I mean, they were paying attention, and they know that anybody moving into Orlando that's on Twitter is going to want internet. And so why not be the first one to offer a personal invitation to use their product? So
Absolutely.
He had a couple of rounds of conversations with them. So it's really powerful, I think, when you know who you're wanting to serve and you begin listening to them, that when they show up, you're ready to really serve them. Let me ask a few more questions here. I don't know if it was Steve Jobs or Apple or somebody who really, really made it, but they basically made the comment that customers, people, they actually don't know what they want. They don't know what they need. You just need to go make something awesome, and then they'll discover, oh, wow, I actually really did want that. How,
Yeah.
how do you talk to people that have that comment or perspective?
I'm a big Apple fan, so and I
I'm not
think it
asking you
was
to
Steve
slam them,
Jobs'
but
days. No, 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 no. Look, by nature, people are curious, and by nature, we found our way around, the Americas before there was anything like technology. So I think um, people will find a way to find something, but I think if you've got the opportunity to share a great message, a fantastic message with people, why would you wait for them to come find you if you can go and intercede into their lives and share it with them? I think, we need to continuously find and work, find ways to work better and smarter. I mentioned the attention economy. Um, Unless you're Apple, you're going to struggle to stand out in the current day and age. There are so many messages out there that unless you have a real connection with someone, you're going to completely miss the boat. So I think personas allows us to understand people. You can technology is just a vessel to get the messages, the communication between two people around. I think we get too focused on technology and we build fantastic platforms and apps and sites and all those things, but we forget that we are in the business of communicating with one another. We're in the business of sharing the gospel, and that is still a one-on-one relationship. And I think if we start thinking that we're actually should be found and we don't want to value other people, then we need to really look inwards, because I think then we've missed the boat.
hmm um, let me ask this: what is there a risk to using personas? So we've heard the positive side of it. Is there any potential? And maybe this is embedded in some of the common mistakes that you've seen people make.
It's hard to say if there's risks. I've never seen it being used for a bad reason or detrimental to a business or brand. What I have seen is people sometimes get so fixated on the details that they actually forget, one, it's a fictional person,
Hmm.
um, and it's a starting point for your strategy. It's not the whole strategy.
Hmm.
And I think sometimes people spend too much time fixating on getting it perfect,
Hmm.
and 6 months down the line, they've not finalized, their persona, but so much they've actually lost real opportunities in real
Hmm.
life to engage with the users. So I think put time together, but try and take a stab at, but don't take too long on it. There is still a bigger job at hand, which is the rest of the strategy
Hmm.
that needs to follow.
Hmm. Um, so these folks on the call, we've got 40 here right now. We'll have many, many more watching the recording later. Um, let's say they get this, they get to work. What are some tips in terms of them bringing it to some of the key stakeholders they work with, other leaders, people who maybe have larger control in terms of strategy or money? How do we help us be good spokespeople for this and the usefulness of it? Because maybe other people might think it's just a waste of time, or you're just creating some fictional things anyway, or we know what we want to do, we know they need this. Help us learn how to communicate the importance of this to leadership that are over us.
Okay. I think that that would be for me the benefits of personas. I could continuously talk about the benefits, but I think it's good to have a sales pitch really ready for it, like a one slide. And I think it's to really understand your users so that you could connect with them on a level that's deeper than just the generic demographics. I would suggest that they keep it concise. Um, 1 or 2 slides maximum per persona.
Mm.
Do your research, have your answers ready, and have that as backup. But keep it short and precise, and sell the benefits of personas to the powers that be.
Great. Well, Lieze, thank you so much for your time. Really, really appreciate it. Um, I'm going to switch here for a second. We want to help everybody on the call to move to action, because I personally have found this to be very, very helpful for me. It's changed my thinking, it's changed my language, it's changed how I am working through real strategic problems and opportunities with different products that are in development. And so we want to invite everybody on the call to take what Lieze has given them tonight and over the next 2 weeks by November 11th, 11/11, to actually go and create one persona for that group of people that God has put a burden on your heart for, a love for, even an intentional ministry objective to reach. And we want to actually see and learn together in this process. So on our Indigitous Facebook group, you can post questions, you can post your progress, and then by 11/11, we'd love to see 30, 40, 50 different real research-based personas from all around the world. And can you imagine this map of people that we're praying for and trying to serve kind of emerging over the next 2 weeks? So that's our invitation for you. We'll be sharing some of the personas that we've created within our organization here at Crew that we're using globally. And then I'm sure everybody is asking, how do I get the presentation? If you go to ndgt.us/sessions, that is the event page, and that's where you can find a link to a persona creation guide. Soon you will find a link to Lieze's presentation that she gave today. And within, hopefully, the hour, you will have a recording of this session that you can return to and share with other friends. So that's our invitation to you. Don't let this just be an interesting hour with some interesting facts and some links to go check out later. But together, let's get to work on this, because it's not just about strategy. It's really about people. And it's really learning about the people that God's given us a burden for. And so we want to love and serve them well. And Lieze, you really have done that tonight to us, or today, whatever time it is for you. But we really appreciate your time, and know that you mentioned coming on that it was a hectic and busy day. And so we appreciate you finding kind of an oasis of quiet for an hour to really give us your attention. You can follow Lieze on Twitter. Lieze, how can they contact you or follow you and continue to stay in touch through social media?
Yes, they can follow me on Twitter. It's just at Lieze Langford, all one word. On Facebook, lieze.langford. On my site, which is liezelangford.com. And yes, I think it's all Skype, smoke signal. There's so many ways, yes.
Wonderful. Well, thanks for being available to us. We're up on time. We're going to end the session, but right as we end, a survey is going to pop up that we really would love for you to help us with. This is our first Indigitous sessions. We'd like to do many, many more, and we'd like to hear how this one was for you, how we can make it better. But there's also a question in terms of, what are you interested in? How can we best serve you? You as a person who are passionate about connecting people to Jesus and doing that through digital strategies. We want to come around you to help you be the most fruitful and effective that you can be. So if you could just take a few minutes and fill that out for us, we'd be very, very grateful. Okay, God bless, and everybody have a great day.